Right, so what we've got here is I've made a drawing of my cat, and what I've done is I've made the cat a little bit more aggressive and a little bit the shape of the jaw a little bit more like Lion King. And you'll see I've drawn the cat mainly in silhouette. I've had to put in some key lines just to define features, but you don't want too many of those. You want it just to be purely a silhouette as such. And what I've got here is a piece of transparency. Now you could use glass, and you could actually do this directly onto a glass window. You could also do it onto a wall. You could do it in 3 dimensions if you had a projector, so you project over surfaces that stick out, etc. It just depends how much work you want to put into it. But I think for the first time tape art work, you want something quite simple and something that you can relate to. Many artists, tape artists, enjoy reproducing masterpieces in tape art, like Laocoon or images, artworks like that, Mona Lisa, etc. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm fixing the drawing to the transparency so that it doesn't move, because you don't want it to move once you start. And I'm taping it to the underside of the work. Then the tools basically that I have is a pair of scissors, the tape, and a blade just to create any detail. And since we've already got our drawing, we've got everything, it's quite a simple case of just starting off, being very careful in your following your outlines, and bending this plastic tape. Now the kind of tape I'm using is electrical tape. It's quite nice because it's made with a lot of plastic, and so it's very, very flexible, and one can turn into the corners. And what I'm looking at here is particularly the outside edge that I'm following. And if I come to a difficult point, I can just cut it off. So there we have one edge nicely done. If I come something like the ears, I can also reduce the thickness of my tape. Some tape artists try and create the whole work without having to reduce the edges, but I think for our work, because we are working on such a small scale, we might want some of these details. So I'm just going to take that out and just tip off the ear, create a triangle, and there we have the tip of the ear, and we can put it in there. Using the other piece that is created for the second tip, I can use that on that side. I can take my knife now and it's like a normal Stanley knife, and just clear off any edges I'm not happy with. And so various areas I can build up with small or large pieces of tape. The smaller the pieces, the easier it is to manipulate them. So now I'm going to work on this little ear there, and down into this ear. And this tape is really beautiful to work with because it stretches, and the work can go quite quickly. From here I can do the next line. I can just stick it down, work it all the way down before cutting it. just remembering when it does go over a line, either to peel it back and with your scissors carefully cut it off, or with your Stanley knife. So my kit is starting to form. Now, if one used a projection method, one could project this onto a wall and create your tape art on the wall. The beauty of tape art compared to graffiti art is that it's very temporary, it doesn't do any damage, and it can be removed very easily if one so desires. When you get little folds like that, the best thing is just to chop it off. So you don't have to struggle with those pieces. So what I'm going to try and do now is use one piece to just bend around the eye, using its flexibility, smooth it out, cut it off. Unfortunately, my cutter is a little bit blunt at the moment, so I'm just going to sharpen it by snapping the blade, and now we should be much more in action there. Right, and you can see how now we've started various aspects. Sometimes I'm following the lines exactly, and other times I'm changing what I'm doing. So this tape you can buy at any hardware shop, electrical tape, or you can go to an electrician's shop, purchase it there. It's really beautiful to work with, and while I'm working, even though it's a silhouette, because I'm working with tape, it's building up a texture. It's actually just beautiful. Look at this texture that is making it into a drawing that expresses something. And in this case, it's expressing a aggressive cat. And my cat, I wanted, because my cat's been really naughty, and it goes and catches birds, so it's like a hunter. So I wanted my cat to be like a lioness, and that's the way I drew her. It's this mean, lean, hungry cat who's gonna go out, hunt, hunt birds. There we go. So rounding, I use this to round the edges, and I just use the scissors to cut off pieces as needed. So we've already got most of the cat done now. The difficult parts. Now I'm just going to fill in the body. Because we're working on such a small scale, so tape art is suited for large scale work as well, so up to maybe 10 meters or so. Obviously that's requiring a lot more tape. This one I'm going to use the folds to actually, to my advantage as part of the art, where I'm not just cutting little pieces. I like to stretch and fold the work as well. The tape as well. So there we go. That one was just straight, and this one is just straight because I want these pieces to fill out the chest. Right, and now we got anything curved obviously takes a little bit more work. And so you can either just cut the curves in, put in straight pieces. So I'll give a demonstration of that. Like here, I'm just going to make a straight piece for the leg, and then I'm going to cut a curve and peel that off for the foot. you can use either method. Like, yeah, I'm going to bend some because I want the texture to be a crucial part of my tape artwork. There we go, and then we have one little foot. And this one I'm going to bend again because I love those wrinkles that just give it a little bit of humanity to it. So there we have it there. This piece I can just chop off. It's in the way. Just be careful you don't cut through your transparency. Obviously, if you're working on glass or on the wall, that isn't an issue. And here we go. Just fill it in. And I've left a little white line here, which is not true to nature, just part of the, what one would call the stylization, but just separating the different areas. And now we're gonna do the tail, and moving from the back to the tail. So this one I'm gonna actually just draw by cutting my shape in, because it's like drawing with something so fine. It's beautiful. You get that pure line that you just draw straight in as well. And there we have our cat. We just got the tail and the eye to do. And as I say, we're working on a very small scale. This is A4. And I would recommend this scale for any beginner. And once you've successful at this stage, at this scale, it's maybe, from then on you could think about going into a larger format. But obviously the larger you go, the more it costs, because you're going to need quite a few rolls of this electrical tape. And there we go, just changing that tail a little bit. And I think here I'm going to not follow my drawing exactly, but I'm going to round it off. Nicely there. And there we have the tail. It's a geometric piece here that is not satisfactory, so what I'm going to do is just cut it off and shape it a bit. Remember, that's where so we've got this fake negative line here just to finish off that part. And now we've just got the eye, and I'm thinking the eye I'm doing one piece. So I'm just going to cut off a piece, place it on, and then carefully cut out my shape. Remembering it's like a cat's eye, like a snake's eye. It's an elongated pupil. Usually they're quite thin, their pupils, but when they're hunting it tends to get a bit larger. And so there we have the cat. And if I take my drawing off, we now have the tape art cat completed. Thank you.